Well, hello and welcome to this week's episode here on the Resto Saga Classic Car Restoration YouTube channel. And this week we've got something different. Probably about a couple of years ago I made a short video on this live steam model. It's up here on the channel, you can go back and see it. I didn't really know much about the model at the time, but as time's gone on I have done a bit more research. And I'm glad to announce that this is going to become a very long-term project here on the channel. Most of you are used to seeing classic car content, and I like all things mechanical really. I like old things, I like working with my hands. So this live steam model, which I inherited, is certainly something that's going to be a very interesting project in the months and years to come, and it's certainly going to take a long time. So let's have a look through this 3.5-inch gauge Locomotive live steam Heilan Lassie model and talk a bit more about it and think about our plans for the future. So here we have the 3.5-inch gauge live steam locomotive called the Heilan Lassie. This model was built by an elderly neighbour of my family's and was given to my dad and my brother with the intention of maybe one day they could complete it, and it's eventually made its way to me, and I think it's a fantastic looking thing. It's beautifully made and has survived the years quite well. It lived in our attic for quite some number of years, and when my parents moved house it came to live with me, and ordinarily it lives over there on top of the electric box. My garage is nice and dry, so it keeps it well, and I've given it a spray over as WD-40 to stop any further surface rust or corrosion. So I don't know a lot about these models. I'm happy to be taught or told. Constructive criticism, suggestions, all very welcome. I believe this is based on an LBSC design, and I think it was detailed in the Model Engineers magazine over a number of issues. As is custom of that magazine. I'm just looking over the chassis here, so I'm going to work my way through the chassis and explain what I think I know. As I said, I'm no expert, but I'm happy to be told if I'm wrong. So up at the front, this is your front buffer bar. These are the main frames. You have 3 cylinders on this as far as I can see. So the 2 hang sort of outside the main frames, the main chassis and the center cylinder. That lovely crankshaft down here, and then I believe this is a water pump leading down into the back of the chassis, and I think this is where the cab would live normally, and then there's a tender would go out the back as well. So this is called a 462. And it's based on an A1/1, so I think that's like a Flying Scotsman type design, but again, happy to be corrected that. If you look at the workmanship on this, and this is to the scale of my finger, it's fantastic. And the elderly man who built this was an engineer. He was involved in aircraft design, certainly during the war years, Sunderland flying boats and the like. And he did this sort of in his evening in his workshop. He had also made traction engines and a 3.5-inch gauge titch model as well, so I think he was quite well versed in what he was doing. Unfortunately, this project, he seemed to lose interest in it or abandon it. I don't really know why, but I think it's an absolutely fantastic thing. I think it's really well made, although I'm no expert, and he's certainly taken his time over it. A little bit of surface rust on the wheels and these control bars here. And I'll just show you this working. So that moves this motion here, and it's still so smooth and positive, and it works all the way right up into the cylinder. If anyone knows what that is, I'm feeling it's a reverser, but if someone can tell me otherwise, that would be great. So what I'm going to do now is lift the locomotive up by the ends of the frame rails and then see if I can get the wheels spinning a wee bit just by hand. I don't have compressed air linked up to this, and then we can take the covers off these cylinders well and have a detailed look at what's inside. So just for a bit more of a demonstration, I've set it up on these little pots here. This is the bogie, it's not attached on underneath here. So let's have a wee look. Let's see if I can work out how to do this while holding a camera. Wheels don't seem to be turning all that well, so that's a bit of a fail. Let's have a wee look, see. Might be able to turn better from this side. I don't really want to force it and cause any damage. Yeah, maybe leave that well enough alone. Sorry about that. Should have tried that off camera, but there you go. I'm going to give you a bit more realistic look of what's going on here. So, a bit more straight from the top. There's the center cylinder through the linkages. These seem to be sort of eccentrics here, nearly like a cam design. Again, this oil pump seems to run on an eccentric design. There is a little bit of play, and that'll pump the water up here and into the boiler. I had priced a boiler for this because I believe that's the next major step, just to get an idea really. And I'm told that a boiler is about £3,000, which I think is extraordinary because you'd get a good decent Land Rover for £3,000. So really, in the context of classic cars, this is quite an expensive hobby and time consuming, but that's okay. I don't plan on doing this overnight. I don't have a lathe, I don't have a mill, and there's certainly skills that I would be interested in acquiring. So in order to do that, I have contacted my local Model Engineer Society and plan to go along there and find out their opinion on this model, if it's a really good one, is it worth doing, is it worth fixing, and really take it from there. So let's pop it back down and have a look inside these cylinders. So here we have some of the valve covers, I think they are, off. This is the cylinder here, the piston goes up and down, and then the valve cover here, which admits performs your exhaust. And the screws, which are here, go down through these little blocks. And I know I sound like I'm making this up, and I pretty much am, but I don't make any claim to be an expert here, so it's just an interesting model. So yeah, I'm going to take us along to the local Model Engineer Society, get them to have a look at it, see if it's worth working on, see if it's worth spending a lot of time and probably quite a lot of money on turning it into a fully working live steam engine. Obviously need a tender as well. I believe you can still get the castings for this, which is great, because I still need the sort of the chimney smoke box. Need to get a boiler made, which is going to be expensive, and there's a lot of fitting and finishing to do. So from my limited knowledge, I think a lot of the difficult machining's done. I could be wrong, but I'll be really interested to see what an expert thinks of this, and whether it's a good model, or is it just something that maybe I should just tidy up and put in a display case. Maybe get a length of track and make like a little diorama just to display it on. If so, that's fine. It's an enormously heavy thing. I dread to think how much a full size one weighs, but I have to say it would be pretty cool to have this finished, transporting it around in my classic Land Rover. I think that would be pretty smashing, all in all. So just before I sign off in this video, I thought I'd give it a good liberal lashing of WD-40, and it's certainly moving more appropriately. And if you listen really carefully, you nearly listen. No, you're not going to pick it up on the camera. You can actually get a bit of a steam noise from here, so that's good. I think it's probably just from sitting over time. Probably the old oil that's been in it has gummed up and made things a bit more sticky. There does seem to be a bit of a tight spot as you rotate the wheel, so that's maybe something that would need looked at with time, but there you go. So let's pop it back together and we'll sign off in this wee video clip. And so there you have it, the 3.5-inch scale live steam model of Heilan Lassie, an A1/1 steam locomotive, which I hope to take this rolling chassis, now rolling that I've got it freed up I suppose. I'm going to take it along to the local Model Engineer Society, get them to have a look at it, find out a bit more about it, see what's all involved, and go from there. I believe the Model Engineer Society have their own lathes and mills and so on, so I might even be able to do work there before buying my own equipment. I don't know. This is very much in the early stages. if they don't think it's worth doing, I might even look into doing one of the part work type projects, such as those by Steam Traction World. I really like a traction engine, especially a slightly bigger one that I could maybe be pulled behind and drive. I think that'll be a huge amount of fun, and certainly a long-term project, although they're extremely expensive, so maybe definitely a very long project. So I'm going to keep you up to date with this. Hopefully one day this can be turned into a working model steam engine. I will document it all here on the YouTube channel, of course. Be sure to follow me on Instagram, on the Facebook page, and even on the Twitter page. Hit the like button down below and fire me a comment if you wish. I'd also really appreciate if you could hit the subscribe button too, just to give me a bit of support as I try and grow this channel. But thanks very much for watching. I hope you find this interesting, and I'll catch you all again next week. Cheerio!